Boom, 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 boom. We are live. Welcome to Hits and Heels. I'll take my glasses off. Hits and Heels, Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock. We're here every Wednesday on Hits and Heels. I'm Terry Bryant. My co-host is Danny Wright. She will be on shortly. Today we got a special treat because we got Miss Kentucky, Chantelle Pressley, the entrepreneur, the former college and professional basketball player, as our special guest today. And we are getting ready to talk about this NCAA tournament, girl.
Yes, it was a good one.
So where do you even want to start? Because there's just so many dynamics that we could start with. You want to where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? You want to jump right into the championship game of the women's game?
Yeah, I mean, that's fresh on my brain right now because I was
Let's
out
go
and
with
I
it.
told people, I was like, I got to get home. I think I missed maybe like the first, like half of the first quarter. And I was like, I need to get home to watch this NCAA women's game. It was on my schedule, on my radar. I was totally locked in, wanted to see that.
Absolutely. Ty came home. I actually worked Sunday and I came home and Ty was already home and he watched the game with me and we were locked in. Right. So I guess I'm still kind of in shock that it was even Iowa versus LSU because I was so shocked that South Carolina lost to Iowa. I don't know what to do. I really did not think that South Carolina could be beat because they were just literally just blowing everybody out of the water. And so, but I got to be impressed with Kate. I'm impressed. I'm a fan of CC. I call her CC of Caitlin Clark. I'm a fan. I'm a fan because those two games before the LSU game was absolutely. She put on a clinic.
Yeah, I was rooting for Louisville in the Elite Eight.
I was too.
I want, of course, I'm rooting for the Kentucky team. I wanted
Yes.
Louisville to win, but I mean, in that game, I was just like, her skill set just seemed so much higher than everybody else. And I will make the note that I have watched Notre Dame play, and I was so upset when their point guard got injured and she was going to be out for the rest of the season. I can't remember her name, but I know she wore the glasses, and she was amazing too. I love watching her play, and I was really sad that she didn't get to compete in the NCAA tournament. So things might have been a little different. Not saying
I agree. Coach Ivy has Notre Dame on point. I think I watched the ACC championship game, and I was like, I see you, Coach. And yes, I was definitely devastated when she lost. It was kind of like last year when Paige from UConn, hurt her knee and tore her ACL. It was like, oh my God, you just look forward to seeing these players play. And they're so exciting to watch, right? So let's get back to this LSU game. I thought that first I was nervous. Yeah, LSU started off with 3 turnovers, like right off the gate, and I was like, "Oh my God, here we go! Get it together!" And then they got it together, right? Yeah. I think I was most impressed with in the second quarter when she had 3 of her starters on the bench in foul trouble, and the bench came in and stepped up. What do you think?
Number two, all day. 20, she had 21
in the first half.
It was so impressive. I was so happy for her, and I just feel like in those moments, like certain people will rise to the occasion, and what's meant for you will be for you, because nobody would expect her to come in and have 21 points. And they said before those first 3 games, she may have had 11 points in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, I thought it was 0.
Wow. Yeah, she may not have scored. It was just something like she was on fire. She could not. I was like screaming at the TV.
I was too.
Another 3.
I was like, feed her. I actually would. As a basketball coach, I think it would have been hard for me not to start that last group in the second half because they were so much on fire. And I think I would have waited to bring my starters back because the backups did such a great job. And I would have came back to see if she was still hot.
Yeah. That's the thing. I talked about that during the game. We were watching it and we were like, would you have put the starters back in? And for me, like there's been times in playing where it's like you want to try to keep things as normal as possible, but this was such a special circumstance that bringing her back in might have been like the best idea. But I mean, as I see, I'm like, well, they brought the starters back in, and the result wind up LSU being the winner. So it's like you never know how the cookie would have crumbled otherwise. But that was a hard decision to make because, like you said, they got them to the point where they had the lead and they had the momentum going.
I mean, even Coach Mulkey even mentioned it. She said that was the turning point when they came in. They were shooting three, and it wasn't just number two. It was like 3 or 4 of them that came in and were hitting threes, right? And so she was like, once they came in and they set the tone and pushed the lead, she said, I gained confidence that we were going to win this game. Or it was getting ready to be an interesting game, is what she said. It was going to be interesting. And she was absolutely right. Now, I think the turning point in the game, of course, was the controversial call. The tech on Caitlin. What did you think?
I mean, I don't know if I saw the play. So she just took the ball and she kind of threw it behind her out of bounds. But when they went back and talked about it after, I think the referees talked about on Twitter saying that they had warned Iowa about a delay of game warning because they had touched the ball after a play. So when they make the warning and then after something like that happens again, the tech was probably justified for everyone watching. We don't know about the warning in real time. And then seeing it live, we're like, she didn't say anything. She didn't yell. It was just
real petty. Yeah.
Yeah, it was unwarranted. For me, I think some of the more like controversial calls were the post players turning with the elbows leading to the head. There were 2 calls that they looked at and they didn't call either one of them. But because the superstars that they have in the post on LSU and for Iowa, that would have been big plays, whether that would have been their 3rd foul at the time, but they didn't call those. And, being on either side of that, whoever you're rooting for, those are big plays in the game, how they made those calls.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was definitely one of those people that thought that the call on Caitlin was a little petty, especially given it her 4th foul. But then again, once we got and I didn't even hear the part what you just said that there was a prior warning. I'm just now hearing about that part. I only saw where the referee gave the description of this is what the rule is. It's this rule, blah 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 blah, and this was the rule, right? And so, and then even my husband said that. He said, Terry, that's a rule, and I was like, as long as I've been playing basketball, right? And so, it gave me more clarity, and it was like, okay.
But the thing was, at the time when they called the foul on her, they had already called a foul, and Angel was going to the line to shoot her 2 free throws. So it was a dead ball situation. So there really wasn't a delay.
There shouldn't have been a delay of game.
Exactly. If it would have been a live play, somebody just scored and they was getting it, and then you touch the ball, that gives you an advantage to get back on defense. So
right.
I personally don't think I would have, at being a referee, and I wouldn't have. That is a hard job to do. I will give credit to the referees because no one likes the referee. Everybody on both sides is going to complain about something. So it's a very difficult job to try to see things in real time. They're happening so fast. And I know we have the luxury of seeing the replay and things like that. But in real time, those calls are hard to make. But because it was a dead ball, they called the foul, and then the ball got thrown out of bounds. It seemed like they were punishing her, like she was giving them attitude about the call, kind of tossing the ball back.
Right.
I don't think it warranted
I didn't either, and I think you just brought a great point on it. They used the rule that it was a delay of game, but it was already a dead ball situation, and everybody was kind of just in their huddle, and they were discussing before she was going to the free throw line. So all she had to do was say, "Can you just give me the ball?" Right. Sometimes you just have to, just let them play, and the referees will learn a lot from. And I think what I'm disappointed at, not with the calls, I think I'm disappointed with just how so many people were just so against the referees. I still thought it was a great call game. I love the fact that we had 3 female referees in a women's championship game, and then there were people that were complaining about, well, why didn't y'all have such and such? Again, you're never going to appease everybody. There's always going to be somebody that's got something to say and something negative to say. But I thought that, again, I don't know what game I have ever watched where there hasn't been 2 or 3 calls that were questionable, especially if it's going against the team that I'm rooting for.
Exactly. I mean, this is a high level game. There's going to be calls that could go either way. And at the end of the day, that foul didn't foul Caitlin out. She didn't foul out of the game. So she was able to continue to play even with her 4th foul. So at the end of the day, I look at it like bad calls can be made. You have to be so good that you can overcome what the referees call. You can't have the game close enough to where it could be up in the referee's hands. So, I mean, the chips fell where they did. And I think my hats go off to LSU in that game.
And that Tech was also, I think, a momentum shifter too, because they were on they were down 21 right before the Tech. They had brought it back within 9.
Yes, and for Iowa, 9 points is nothing.
Not when Caitlin is shooting lights out from half court, right? And so, but then after that, LSU went on to another, I think, like 14 to something run again, and then they pushed the lead, made it, just out of reach, I think, and it was kind of like a dagger. But that's what you don't want. You don't want the referees to create a call that creates such a momentum shift that it appears to have cost in the game. And I think that that's where it's going to be. They're going to keep talking about that if it wasn't for the Tech, they probably would have came back, or and whatnot. But I don't know. It was a fantastic game. I did
change. I couldn't ask for more.
You just couldn't ask for a better game. I was excited about the viewership.
Yep.
I was excited about the fact that the girls, the ticket prices were higher than the boys' game. There was just so many positive things. I hate that they just had the controversy between Caitlin and Angel as the whole highlight, when there were so many other positive aspects about the game that everybody should have been talking about, as opposed to that. But if that's what's going to give people, it's like reality TV shows. People love drama, and so that's what they're going to focus on. So, did you think that Angel was doing too much?
So I saw the end of the game, and when I saw her like walking up towards Caitlin doing it, I was like, okay, she's doing too much by walking up to her while she's doing it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, she may have felt a way about what she did against Louisville, and she could have felt like that was disrespectful. And to her, she might have been like, look, I'm going to show you, like, you get cocky, you whatever, you do that, I'm going to do it back to you so you can see it. But neither one of them really cared. It's just like a competitive spirit in the heat of the moment. You playing the game, you passionate. If you do something, like when she puts her hand down saying you too small, like that gives you energy. You're just talking during the game because this is what you do. If you've been playing outside with guys and, whatever, pick up ball, you just talking trash. That's what you do. And you're going to carry that over into the regular game. Neither one of them really was offended by anything. They were just playing the game and talking trash and having fun while they was doing it.
Yeah, I think, again, I think Caitlin definitely showed a lot of class. With, you're not going to tell me you didn't see Angel. She says she didn't see her, but there ain't no way you didn't see her. She was all up in your face, right?
Yeah.
But even her responses during her interviews after the game, she just gave so much respect to Kim Mulkey, to them, said that they've even talked after the game, since that time, and they've given just respect to each other. I just thought that was just first class on Caitlin's part, again, because Caitlin was like, it's just a game. We're going to talk smack. I mean, I just remember, I love when I would always talk smack when I played against guys, because I'm like, okay, how do you feel about yourself that you just blocked my shot, right? So then, I said, all these guys out here, I'm the only female on the court, and I'm the only one whose shot you blocking. Okay, and so, you would just talk smack to them like that. And so that, again, that's just part of the game, and I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. And I think even the trash talking made the girls' game more appealing to other people that because there were so many people that tuned in that never really had even tuned into a girls game before.
After that game, I went on social media and I looked on my timeline. I saw so many images of this, so many images of this. And it was like, yeah, people were paying attention. I got one of my college teammates here, and it's like, we need more beefs like that just to like make it more exciting, push the narrative so people will tune in. I think it's great. I love that people who hadn't ever watched the women's game were checked in, they were tuned in. People called me after the game when we were talking about the drama, talking about what happened. So happy for LSU, telling me who they was rooting for. I had other people at Drake's telling me they were pulling for Caitlin. They were like, she's the best player I've ever seen.
Yes.
She's made me a fan of women's basketball. So I'm like, that's amazing. I don't care who made you a fan. I just want people to watch because I have love and respect for the women's game for years. And I never understood why people didn't like watching women's basketball. I'm like, the narrative they want to paint about them not being talented and not being fast enough, this and that. I'm like, I don't know who y'all are watching, but the athletes that I've seen, WNBA, college, high, pro level, amazing. So I'm just like, y'all watching the wrong thing.
Yeah, I guess I don't get that either. I mean, because when I sit back and think about even before because I'm gonna show my age because I'm 53. So I graduated 88, right? And so 89, I think, was when Tennessee won their first championship, I think. And it was actually on TV. And I was like, how? Oh my God. And that's when I totally fell in love with Pat Summitt in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, how do you not love the girls' game? And it's more fundamentally sound.
Right.
But now you got us going to you got them playing against the Rams. So if you're watching Lisa Leslie, if you're watching Brittany Griner, if you're watching Candace Parker, they're playing above the rim.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity for you to play rim. Were you at the game? I know I was. I was at the game back in the day when Kentucky made it to, I think the year they made it to the Elite Eight. I was at the game when Victoria Dunlap missed a dunk in a game. Memorial Coliseum. And I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. But the fact that she attempted it in a game was huge for me. You know, and I love that what Angel said. She said, I got one more inch to put on my vertical and I'll be dunking.
Oh, that's going to be really exciting. I can't wait. I can just imagine Angel coming down, dunking and rocking a cradle like y'all some babies out here. I'm all for it. I want to see it. I remember when I was in high school, Candace Parker was in college. So I think she's about 4 years older than me. So I watched her play against UK and I was such a fan. And I remember her dunking and they were showing it on the commercials. Candace Parker dunking in the games. I'm like, how exciting is that?
Yeah, she was dunking a warm-up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was definitely exciting. I mean, I had season tickets at UK at that time because they were just because Candace Parker was playing. Sylvia Fowles at LSU was cold. There was just so many other
Simone
players.
Augustus and Sylvia Fowles. I wanted to be like Simone Augustus. Like I felt like she was a forward.
Oh, I loved her game.
Mid-range game. I thought I had the mid-range game. So I was like, I saw that she had shot with a glove on. I was like, I want to be like Simone Augustus. We're the same size, same height. And I'm like, that's who I'm mirroring my game off of.
Loved her. I mean, there were just so many women in the past. So of course, I grew up watching not just Lisa Leslie, but Reggie's sister, Cheryl Miller, right? Back in that day, with Cynthia Cooper and all them, right? So I loved all them and Cheryl Swoops and all of them when they were coming up were my idols, right? Because they're all my age. And so it was just exciting. So there's always been girls that have been that have brought a different level to the game. But even these days,
Diana
Taurasi, I think is probably the best.
Maya Moore. Those are people who I'm like at the time. I remember we had some
right now are cold-blooded. I was sick when Maya retired.
Let's talk about that. So she retired from the game and became an advocate to change the justice system, because we all know that there's so much injustice that goes into like the jury, just everything. And she got her boo. I don't know if it turned into her boo in the process of trying to get him out, and they fell in love, and then they
fell in love and just had a son. How old's the son now?
It can't be more than 2.
Is he even 2?
I don't know that he got out.
He had him last year. Yeah, or going on 2 maybe. But what an exciting story for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but and then I sit back and I just think how much I love the game and how hard it was for me to walk away from the game. And I'm thinking, like, what I would love to have that type of a passion for something, that I would walk away from something that I love just to be able to be an advocate for something like that. I mean, because I'm a player, I played as long as I could.
Maya Moore achieved every level of success multiple times over. She won multiple college championships. She won WNBA championships. She won gold medals. I think she won while she was in high school. I'm like, there was nothing, MVPs. There was nothing left for her to achieve. She had done it all.
That's true. I mean, that's true. She did it all. She did it all. There was another level. So you're right. And I guess I can understand that. That's a great perspective, because you're like, okay, what else is there? So then she found a passion, that she was able to pursue. And what a great story. I watched is it a 30 for 30 that it was? I can't remember. It was some type of a special that it was. But it was absolutely fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Just hearing her story and her level of faith and the belief system, and then and her having a son, and oh my God, I can you imagine how great this child's going to be?
I mean, that's love. I appreciate the story too. I think they have a book that's out as well. I haven't. Yes. But I do like to read the book. I love to find out the name of the book, get the book and read it, and just see more about the entire story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So my co-host Danny has made it on. Fine. What's up, girl? What's up, girl?
Hey. Woo! Let me tell you, my sister is tired.
Yeah. We're glad you're here, Danny.
It's so nice to see you, meet you. Welcome to Hits and Heels. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on Hits and Heels. And
I was listening in while I was driving home, and I was getting mad because my GPS kept interrupting the show. I'm like, I was offended. Like, I'm trying to listen to the show with GPS.
And GPS is like, turn left.
Turn right. Head northeast. Northeast. I'm in a totally different city that I don't know anything about. Siri up here talking about head northeast onto Lane Road. What? Tell me left or right, Siri. Like all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I made it. So I'm so excited. It's been busy, but it's exciting. We got some good stuff going on.
We have so I want to go to the men's game.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I fell asleep. I might have watched
the game so late
for the men's
because the game started at 9:20 Eastern.
The game started at 9:20. That was too late. Number one.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm on Central Time right now, and when I saw that game, I thought it started at 8:20 Central Time, and 8:20 Eastern, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, cool. I can make it home. You know, I gotta get home. I gotta eat. I gotta do all this stuff. I'm sitting up here waiting, and next thing I know, like another show comes on, and I'm looking at. I'm like,
what time is it?
Oh, this is 8:20 Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, let me find some work to do so I could at least stay up until halftime. But baby, by the time halftime hit, I was like,
I woke up.
I woke up with like 10 minutes left to play in the game.
Mm-mm. I woke up and I saw when they said they were making a run.
Yeah.
I think they had cut it down to maybe 7 points, and then I turned over, and I ain't seen nothing else after that.
I really wasn't interested in the men's championship.
I wasn't either.
I don't know. I was like, well, I saw all I need to see on the women's side, and they gave me all the excitement I needed. I tuned in, but it just didn't have the level.
It didn't have the same excitement, the level of excitement as the girls, as the girls game.
Right.
Because I was like, who in the heck is San Diego State, right? I guess because you're used to just certain teams that are usually in it, that are always in it every year. But I have to give props to UConn.
That made it exciting for me. I feel like the whole tournament was very exciting because it wasn't your typical teams, right?
Yeah.
I remember San Diego State because Fisher used to coach there.
Derek Fisher?
Jim Fisher.
Oh, Jim Fisher.
I don't know who Jim Fisher is.
Jim Fisher, this is going to sound terrible. He looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Okay.
Older white guy, very thin.
Yeah, I don't know who he is either.
I think his
I
name.
thought you were talking about Derek Fisher. I was like,
I was thinking Derek Fisher too. That was who I thought about too. I was like, Derek Fisher.
No. But I just remember Fisher coaching there when I was growing up. And so I was familiar with their story. It was exciting to see them, there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like the women's story was so special.
Yeah.
Just overall. And Terry, so I don't know if Terry told you, but I'm like, I studied sports sociology in grad school. And so, all of these storylines that are involved with the women's game, I've kept quiet from posting because it really needs to be like a whole blog post and all this other. It don't need to be a Facebook post. But I feel like there are a lot of things to talk about on both the men's and the women's side, where, I remember, and I got to find the article that was put up on ESPN, because the article was about how we need to take a look at how the women's teams are seated, because that you've got lower seeded teams that are knocking off top teams and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, are you not paying any attention to the men's tournament? Right? Because they
normally
had more
the girls game. Normally the girls tournament is very predictable.
Yeah.
This was the first year that I've seen this many upsets early on, because normally whoever's the number four, the top four seeds, usually at least 3 out of the 4 are in the final 4.
And so that's what baffled me, again, this goes back into sociological perspectives and the way the media depicts and demeans women's sports, and how certain groups of women are classy and competitive. They basically get to do what they want, Caitlin Clark. And then you have the ones that Don Imus will call nappy-headed hoes, which is why he got kicked off of the air. So when we look at stuff like that, you have a problem not with the nature of what is done, but the nature of who is doing it.
Yeah.
And instead of talking about that, we are acting like, oh, the issue is that Angel Reese did it in her face. Caitlin Clark literally walked past Louisville's bench and went like this, looking at the bench. But because of the way the media put the image out there, you didn't see that.
I saw the game, so I saw it live.
Yeah. So now what the public sees is a cocky, arrogant, disrespectful Black girl, and she's a sore winner now. And it's like, bruh, come on, I need y'all to go back, and just because y'all didn't see Iowa playing all season, you don't know with now, don't get me wrong, Caitlin Clark was dog walking her opponents all season.
Yeah.
That chick can ball, but she ain't innocent.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that earlier. I'm like, it's just the competitive side, people doing things when you score on somebody, you do get a little edge, and so what? You're gonna talk your trash. I feel like that's just a part of the game. There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. That makes the game more exciting. I'm like, everybody blew it up and made it a big media thing, but to the point that a lot of people didn't tune in until they saw, I think Iowa was the one. So I feel like Iowa's Caitlin Clark made a lot of people who had never seen women's basketball tune in. And then the media try to make it more like a black and white thing. Like, if you black, you got to be rooting for LSU. If you white, you root for Iowa and Caitlin Clark. And it was just kind of like how they kind of laid the storyline out there. But we're really just looking at two amazingly talented teams competing against each other. And it just made for an amazing game.
And we also have to look at historically the makeup of the teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Historically, LSU is predominantly black.
Yeah.
Iowa is Iowa. They ain't. Come on now. Iowa is not going to the hood to recruit.
I'm still trying to figure out how Vivian Stringer coached there.
Girl, listen.
Because I don't think they had no black folks when she was there.
She did it. And she faced a lot of racism.
Mm-hmm.
But even on the men's side, like when you look at the makeup of these teams, it's like, I wish that people understood that like this is not, we make it about race from just a perspective of the game itself, right?
Right.
So you expect the black team, the predominantly black team, the HBCU team to get knocked out, right? That's the expectation.
Is that the expectation in basketball? Because for me, I'm like, I feel like predominantly, like, I look at certain teams like and say like, okay, well,
when they get to the tournament, absolutely. And I'm saying this from covering like spending most of my career in HBCU sports. Right?
Okay, yes, okay. So you saying you just talking about HBCUs in general? I thought you just meant were you doing like if it's a predominantly black Division I team versus all white?
I'm talking like HBCUs. The expectation is you're only in this tournament because you're in this division and you get an automatic bid.
You won your conference.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think what we saw this year on both the men's and the women's side is that it's anybody's game. And when you enter this tournament, it's 0-0. Your record is 0-0. And I know from
to recruit when you don't have the resources and the funds. So if you see a program that's underfunded compared to their competition, it's always going to be hard to recruit because you're competing against what's the facilities look like, what's the gear that player is going to be getting. You want to look at their wins and loss record. So if an HBCU doesn't have a high chance of or history of winning in the tournament, and you have a high prospect player that's thinking about, do I go here? Or on the women's side, let's say, do I go to North Carolina, LSU, UConn, or one of the, or South Carolina or Stanford? There's certain teams that you're like, oh, they got the winning record. So it's hard to recruit those players if you don't have the finances to back it up. So, I mean, I think it gives them a disadvantage.
It does. And I think also, and it's funny because I was just talking to my basketball coaches, my men's basketball coaches about this today, is that from a communications perspective, it's like, it's my responsibility. It's my duty. It's my honor. It's a privilege for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to showcase who our student athletes and our coaches are and get people to understand that being in the NAIA or at an HBCU is not, you're not downgrading anything, right? Yeah. So and what you don't see are the PWIs that don't have the resources or the facilities. It's not just HBCUs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, because sociological constructs, right? Socioeconomic constructs have made it that way. We can't even get out of the mindset that things could be different, or that things are different, or that being at certain institutions means you have less, because that's not always the case. But we don't see that from the media side of things. And what the media does is always tells a rags to riches story when it comes to HBCUs, as opposed to saying, you're going to go to this school and you're going to get all these other experiences at an HBCU.
Shout out to all the HBCUs out there.
Shout out to the GCAC, baby. The HBCU conference and the NAIA. Hey.
I have so many friends that went to Kentucky State, and they talk to me a lot about their personal experience about going to an HBCU. And when I talk to them, they're so passionate about it because they got that love. They got that feel like when you go to HBCU, your professors look like you, your student body looks like you, and they're empowering you to believe in yourself that you can do anything, and they're supporting you. So I've had other people that might have attended UK, for example, and they feel like they don't have that support and they don't have that same thing in their field of interest, whether they're science major or whatever. So I've heard different stories on both sides. So you're right. There are great benefits to attending HBCUs, and you know, just depends on what kind of experience the student athlete is looking for, or just the student body person in general.
I think that's a great transition to go into Chantelle. So you graduated here at Dunbar, correct?
Yeah, I went to Dunbar High School.
Dunbar High School, right here in Lexington, Kentucky. Tell us about your basketball playing experience here in Lexington, because again, the girls basketball programs here, you know, don't go to the next level as far as we don't really see them in the Sweet 16. I think we can count on one hand how many times they've been out of Lexington. And then how were you able to transition? Tell us about your recruiting process. And how did you get seen and how did you get recognized to go to the next level? I definitely would like our, you know, I'm always going to promote the recruiting process because a lot of parents don't understand that. And so can you kind of dive into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so my experience at Dunbar High School was great. Like when I started playing basketball, I started playing for the first time ever in the 7th grade. I was terrible. I went to Leestown Middle School and was terrible. But I got on an AAU program, the Central Kentucky Angels, and I'm telling you, all the girls on the team were high level. Everyone on the team was high level, D1 type of athletes on this team. And it really forced me to step my game up. My learning curve had to be fast because everything was fast paced and everybody was good. So I didn't have time to really say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. So fast forward to freshman year of high school, I was starting varsity. I had played junior varsity my 8th grade year, and I still continued with the same AAU team. We were state champs 3 years in a row for my AAU team. So I got to play with some of my AAU teammates at Dunbar and then across the city competing against those same AAU teammates on other local schools. So we had some of those real big time rivalries. And by the time I got to be a senior, we were 30-3 my senior year. And we did not go to state. We lost to Henry Clay, but we had beat them 3 times that season.
Wow. It's hard to beat a team that many times.
I mean, we lost by 7 at region and we just had an off game. But I mean, by that time I had already signed to play at Eastern Illinois University. But I really feel like the opportunity that I had, I played, I wound up leaving the Central Kentucky Angels and played with the Louisville Lady Legends my junior year. And we played in a tournament in Chicago. It was a Nike showcase. And at that, I must have played really well because I got UIC, Illinois State, and just different schools, Eastern Illinois in that proximity that were recruiting me at that time. And I only went on 2 visits my senior year. I went to the College of Charleston in South Carolina, and I went to Charleston, Illinois, which is where Eastern Illinois is. And that one just seemed to be a really good fit for me. So I thought the coaches did a really good job of customizing my visit. Like when I got in my room, it was like, welcome Chantelle, we want you. And the coaches had me and my parents in the office saying, you're going to be the golden child here. You're going to play and we really want you. And it just felt like a small school, but it wasn't too overwhelming. We still had a lot of kids from Chicago there. So it was still like a mixed kind of culture, even though we were in the middle of the cornfields. So right. I really liked it.
Okay. Yeah, my daughter, her first job was at Western Illinois. So I got a general idea of what you're talking about with that. So, okay. So how were you able to transition from a collegiate to professional overseas?
So while I was on my college team at Eastern Illinois, like I wound up starting my sophomore through senior year there, but I was always like the fifth scoring option on the team. So I wasn't even a high points averaging person. I averaged maybe 7 points and 6 rebounds while I was playing, but I had a goal that I knew I wanted to play at the next level. I stayed 1 year and was the graduate assistant and got my master's degree in sports administration. So I was coaching my teammates from the year before. So it was kind of hard trying to make that separation. Like now you're a coach, not just a teammate of these people. And I talked to this lady named Debbie Black. She wound up coming in as the coach after she was going to be there the season after I was graduating with my master's. And she had an agent. She came from Ohio State and she gave me her agent's contact information. And I wound up using him and he got me a job in France. And that was my first job. I was just I was training the whole year while I was a graduate assistant working on the men's practice team that was playing against our starters. I was always amped for that. I was going in, I'm we not letting them score. We're going to lock them down. Cause it'll be maybe a couple freshmen and 3 guys, myself. Right. We going in, we trying to make our team better, but I was still working out, doing individuals and working on my skills because I knew I wanted to go overseas and just to get my foot in the door to go to France to play through that connection with the coach's agent. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door to play overseas.
I love it. I love it. So now you do you do just group training or just mainly one-on-one training with basketball skills?
So right now, I actually don't do any one-on-one training. I work out with my same trainer, Roy Taylor, who's with Locked In Training. And he just does workouts with me and some of the other pros and girls or people who contact him. So I'll go and work out with them in the morning. The workouts are always really early, 7 o'clock in the morning. So my friends are you still get up and go to the gym? And I'm yes. Because that's what time he goes. So it makes me have to get up and go to the gym early to go shoot. But when we'll do girls and boys camps in the summertime, and if people around in the community say hey, we have a group of girls that we want to have you come in, we'll do pop-up basketball clinics and things like that. Just when people ask us, we'll come and do those.
So you have a girls camp coming up, and I looked at the dates and I was so disappointed because it's the same exact day that I have my first football game for the David City Dynamite because we play at 5. And your camp is from 12:30 to 4, and we're playing in Indiana, so it's going to be a conflict for me. I won't be able to make it because I definitely wanted to be there. Okay, so Danny, are you able to see the chat because she put the information for her camp on there, and I was wondering if maybe you can kind of cut that up a little bit and repost that for us.
There's nothing on here.
I'm going to see if I can reshare it in there. And I'll just tell everybody. So I just opened a women's sober living home here in Lexington. It's called Winter Garden Sober Living. And it houses women that are in early stages of recovery from substance use disorder. So those people who use drugs, alcohol, and they may have co-occurring disorders with mental health. And as a fundraiser, I'm mixing my passion for basketball and working with the youth, especially young girls, to just kind of instill that confidence in them to do this basketball camp. And I really feel like the two really overlap because the more girls are confident in themselves, the more they believe in themselves, and the more that they are physically active and healthy, I think the less likely they'll be to take a life of, using any other substance and things like that. So I think it really does overlap, and we're doing it as a free camp. So even when people can't afford to do really expensive camps, it gives everybody an opportunity And it also gets the community involved because, we're asking for donations so that we can make sure everybody gets t-shirts and lunch provided for this camp. And we're going to have pro coaches, expert coaches coming and doing the clinic with these girls. And I think that everybody's going to have a really great time. So I'm excited about the camp, April 22nd at Dunbar High School, 12:30 to 4. So I have the link registered on wintergardensoberliving.org to register your girls 6 to 18 years old.
So how did the sober living come about? Like where did that come from?
So in 2018, my dad had a rental property here in Lexington, and he let me know that he wanted to turn it into a women's sober living home. So I just got on the back end of it and really helped him get his procedures manual, anything. I built his website out and did anything that was like technical to help him do that. And currently I work as the community outreach director for Eastern Avenue Sober Living. And in 2020, when I got my real estate license and started doing all my real estate business, I wound up buying my own fourplex off of Winter Garden here in Lexington. And I kind of knew that there was still a large need for housing in this sector because I answer the phone when people call every day asking for a bed, if there's still room available.
Wow.
It's something that we really need. It's just, having the space to do it. So opening up that house was just something that I just knew I was really passionate about.
Oh my goodness. I love it when God just drops those type of things into your, into your aura, and then people actually take action on what God, the vision and stuff that God gives them. That is absolutely freaking fantastic. I love it. But okay, but you're also, so Danny, this one is Miss Kentucky.
That one.
Like she's Miss Kentucky. Yeah, it's Miss Kentucky. Like
I know.
The pageant, like Miss Kentucky.
Let me tell you something.
Tell us about Miss Kentucky.
Terry will tell you, like, I've been on the road. I'm like, I just temporarily relocated. So I'm not gonna be home until like May 11th. Oh. But so she been holding it down. Shout out to my girl Terry, because she has
shout out to Terry.
I totally dropped the ball last week. It was horrible. I didn't check the sound and that. So you got to go and delete last week.
So she was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to confirm a guest," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." I don't ever ask. I don't ever have to worry about her. I don't have to ask any questions about who the guest is. She pops the graphic up. I was like, "Oh yeah." I said, got my phone out. I said, Pressley, go.
And then you Googled her.
Googled her. I said, I said, who? Yes. I said, I don't care what I got to do to get back to the house and get on this show tonight. I'm out.
Well, I'm glad you was able to make it, Danny.
So yeah, I scoped you out. I done said, okay, I'm gonna let Terry lead this, but I'm excited. I was like, I just want to be up in the, a little fan girl. I'm gonna tell you.
I'm just saying, I really haven't given her the justice, right? So she's an entrepreneur. She's a realtor. She's now an investor. I was so excited when she bought her fourplex, right? Because that's something that my daughter wants to do. She wants to get into real estate investing. But the Miss Kentucky was just really blew my mind, right? Yeah. Because now you're speaking all over the place. And and I love every time you show up someplace and you got all your little Miss Kentucky on. Did you come to you came to the gala too, didn't you? The Hall of Fame?
Yes, I did.
Absolutely. So I can't wait till this year's gala. So, Danny, we haven't been able to talk. So we didn't announce our
I know.
Yeah. So right. So anyway, so tell us how the whole Miss Kentucky came about, Chantelle.
You know what? I tell this story and I love to tell it because I'm like, it's just a testimony to what you all were saying about when God dropped something on you. I was at the time I was dating this guy that lived in Cincinnati, and I was driving back and forth from Cincinnati to Lexington pretty frequently. And I was on the highway driving back. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive. And I feel like God just was like giving me a word, and he was just saying pageant. Mind you, I'm finishing up a professional basketball career. I'm doing my real estate thing, and
Killing
I
it.
have no passion. I don't have no background on pageantry, so I know nothing about it. But it just seemed like it just kept coming to me. He was saying pageant, and I was trying to figure out why, and it finally clicked. I was like, okay, well, in pageants, I'm not sure how familiar you all are with that, but women will have a platform that they kind of stand on. When you go into a pageant, typically these women are followed by a charity or some kind of organization or cause that they support, that they want to talk about. And it was, for me at the time, it was Eastern Avenue Sober Living. I'm talking about women in recovery. And so as I was getting ready to do the pageant, I was like reaching out to different sponsors saying, hey, I'm going to be in the Miss Kentucky pageant, and this is my platform. Are you willing to donate? So people were donating to Eastern Avenue, and then I was using some of the funds to buy the things that you need for the pageant. Because if you all don't know,
them
pageants are kind of
dresses is bad, child.
Expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah, them dresses are off the chain. Yeah.
Yes, they are very expensive, but I felt like Lexington and the community really had my back. People I went to school with were donating me like $50 and saying like, we support you. And they were just giving me so much love. And it wound up working out. I did it at the time just for, you know, the fundraiser. And I did it for the first time in 2021 in October, and I did not win. I got second runner up. So I did not win, and I was really bummed out. And I said, like, when I was looking on the stage, because there's 3 winners, there's 2 married divisions. So they're Miss Kentucky for America Strong and Miss American for Kentucky. And then there is also the unmarried, which is the MISS is the category I competed in. So there was 3 winners, and the 3 winners from the year before that crowned those winners. Everyone on the stage was white and blonde.
Yeah, you definitely didn't look like everybody else.
And for me, like they told us before the pageant, they were like, the judges are very subjective. Sometimes you'll see somebody that looks like your niece or your, you know, a younger cousin or somebody, and you'll just automatically get a liking to that contestant. And, you know, there can only be one winner. And so they kind of told us that before. But when I looked at the judges, I was like, none of the judges look like me. So I was like, how are they ever going to see the beauty in me?
Wow.
So I didn't want to do it again. I kind of felt a little defeated, and I was like, I don't think it's right for me. You know, I'm just like, I did it. I'm glad that I did it, but I don't think it's right for me. But fast forward to the year later, my dad was like, we did so well with the fundraiser. I want you to do it again.
Just for the fundraising part, not necessarily. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that makes sense though.
Yeah, because I mean, people were supporting me, and they were donating to the cause. And
outstanding.
You know, I had just came over a bout of COVID at the time. It was like I was at that 5-day threshold mark where I was like, I'm so drained and tired. I don't even really want to go, but I've spent all this money. I'm going to go anyway.
Okay.
So I didn't have high expectations that I was going to win. So when they called my name, I was in shock. But it really has changed my life for the better. And I'm so blessed to be able to carry the title as Miss Kentucky for America Strong, because I get to inspire little girls.
Absolutely.
I get to talk to the kids, and even our big kings and queens in the world that need some inspiration. I'm happy that I get to speak to them and give them words of encouragement too.
So before you, how many minority winners have there been?
I believe there have been 3.
Out of how many years has the pageant been going on?
I think since 1978.
Okay.
Yeah, so the new, like the MISS is the single division, is newer than the married division. So the married division was first. When I go back and look at the alumni, as you would say, they are, I think there's been maybe 3 prior.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. But that's still kind of encouraging though, that there have been that many.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that at the time. I hadn't done my research because I was so new into the pageantry world. Like everything was, so fresh. But like as I've been on this journey, now I'm in a Facebook group with all the previous queens. So then I can go back and meet them. And we've had a dinner together for Christmas, which was amazing, just to kind of talk about the legacy of the program. And, I think it's heading in the right direction. We have a new director and she's amazing. She prepared me. And at nationals, I got first runner up for Miss For America. So it was like, this is my third pageant I ever
At
did.
nationals.
Exactly.
See, that's huge. That's huge.
It's so funny because it's interesting to me when I hear people talk about like, oh, everything's, why are you making it about race? Because we're still in this period, in this phase where we're still celebrating first.
Yeah.
American Black women and men doing something for the first time. Like my commissioner is the only Black woman commissioner in the entire National Association.
Yeah.
We are still celebrating first. And so when I hear you talk about it, just yay. All the Black girl magic. And that's not to like, yes, of course I'm rooting for everybody Black because yes, absolutely I am. And it's because we're still in this space where firsts are happening. And so I'm excited and I thank you for sharing not just your story, but your path to doing this and how you stepped into something based off of a passion that you had for something totally unrelated.
Right.
It was really designed to help other people, right? Like it's just like, I'm like, okay. Like
So where did your dad get his passion for that from?
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you all asked because when I grew up, like, and I tell this story every time I go speak at the elementaries, middle, and high schools. Like, I tell everyone this because you never know what people are going through. When I was growing up, my dad was like an abusive alcoholic. So our household was wild. And it was just something that, I had to go to counseling when I was younger for that because, I'm dealing with his addiction problems at the time. And he's been sober since 2012. But, while I was growing up, I was in the household with him while he was like on his ragers or whatever, a binge drinking. And, I see what a different person he is now that he's sober. So even for these women who I'm helping, it's not just about them. It's also about their family members, their kids, and
absolutely
their friends in the community that knew them before they were in their addiction and the people that need them to get back to a healthier self so that they can, be a part of their lives.
Okay, so since that's his testimony, why did he go with the women's home as opposed to a men's home?
In my personal opinion, I feel like it had to be like almost him giving back because he has 2 daughters, he has a son, but then also with my mother, I feel like the relationship, their marriage was affected so much by the alcoholism that I feel like it was his way of like giving back into, what he had kind of had those shortcomings during his lifetime.
Oh, wow. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of a testimony. And that's very, very powerful. And, and when next time you see him, give him a hug and a high five for me. Tell him, great job.
Yeah.
We're so proud of him. Because it's just, like you said, you just don't never know what people, just what they're going through. But I love how people are able to take their trauma or whatever they've gone through and then turn around and flip it. But that's how God works anyway. He always what was made for whatever's made for bad is always he makes it good, right? And so you're always able to flip that to to something positive. I love the story. Outstanding. So is there anything that we didn't touch on about the girls' game? Do we need to go back to the girls' game? Because honey, let's talk about the South Carolina game.
Okay.
How did Dawn lose?
For me, there was a couple things that I saw. One, I was just frustrated with that pick and roll defense.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Dude, where's the help defense?
And y'all got 6'6" on the backside.
But listen, LSU struggled with it too. LSU was getting beat off the pick and roll for a minute.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was
like, only for a minute.
No games
South Carolina never was able to get over that freaking pick and roll. They killed them on that pick and roll, right? And then, okay, so let's go back to the disrespect that because LSU brought up the disrespect when she dissed the girl that didn't shoot the ball. You know, you're at the top of the key, you're wide open, and you don't freaking shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even fathom somebody waving me off like I'm gonna let you shoot. I'm like, oh, okay. But they always, coaches and players will always, there's a saying like, if you open for a reason. So they have looked at the numbers and scouted out to say statistically she can't shoot, and we would rather her shoot the ball than them get in the lane and shoot it.
Absolutely.
So that to me is like, okay, you either future looking at all players, you need to have an outside shot. I don't care if you're a center, a post player, a forward, whatever, guard. You have to have the ability to
shot. I mean, this is basketball. You got to have some type of
you the number one
range game, and if you're a guard and you're not shooting a three, something's wrong.
But the thing was, she started making the shots later on.
Yeah.
So she was. I think she made like four.
I think she did too.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
So it wasn't like she didn't have the ability.
But what was she waiting on by the hesitation before? I guess
maybe South Carolina had a game plan because of their skills in the post to get the ball inside, that she didn't want to deviate from what the game plan was to take those shots, even though they were leaving her open. But you can't be a robot. You got to play the game.
Listen,
I felt when Aaliyah got in foul trouble, I think she still went against the game because she pulled Aaliyah out to the top, which she had no business being at the free throw line or the top of the key.
She was out of place.
And then she had I can't say her name. The other tall girl, 7-foot girl.
Yeah.
Right. She had her in there, and I thought she was a little soft in the post, right? And so I was like, why would you not go with both of them in the post?
Mm-hmm.
I think also some of the officiating throughout the tournament has been so terrible. Like, just because, and I watched as, you know, Angel and Aaliyah and some of the other bigs, they got called for fouls, and it was like, just like you do understand that women can block the ball, right? Mm-hmm. A block does not constitute a foul. They can block. They got those skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it totally took a lot of the bigs out of their element to where now they feel like, oh, I gotta back off. I can't play my normal game because if I throw this hip, if I make this move in the post, I'm gonna get called for a charge, or I'm gonna get called for a blocking foul or something, and I'm literally just playing my position.
Right.
So it's like, at what point, and Terry and I have talked about this before, just in a different way, like, at what point do the officials stop becoming the 6th man or the 10th man or whatever on the court?
Well, we talked about that. Chantelle and I talked about the officials officiating earlier, and I think that we're never going to win that battle. Officials are never going to be able to win because the calls are always going to go against your team,
mm-hmm.
regardless, right? Because you're looking at it from that perspective, right? I heard about all the bad officiating, and I don't think it was any worse than any other time or any other game that I've ever seen. Because every game,
like they were breathing.
Every game is called like that. Every game, there's going to be some questionable.
Two.
Okay, but then if they're not not blowing the whistle, then now everybody's complaining because you're not calling any fouls. You know, so
I don't mean not making calls. I just felt like some of the calls were so bad, and I get it. Like, that happens in every game, right?
Every game.
But I just feel like it was just overkill. Like I felt like it was not the norm, right? You expect bad calls during games because people are human, right? So you making sometimes it's a judgment call. I don't know, but it just felt like, what are you watching? Because you on the baseline calling something that if you looking at the play, you could see it was a clean block.
But it's easy from our perspective looking at it in the stands than when you're on the court watching it in real time. It's a split. It happens in a split second, and you could and it's gonna be a judgment call. If it looks like it, because Chantelle and I just talked about that. I thought the tech on Caitlin was petty until you got the background that they had already had a warning about the delay of game, and then the rule said the rule, and I was like, okay. But then again, me and Chantelle also agreed that, but it wasn't. It was still a dead ball situation, so you still can't really call it. But besides that call, I thought everything else was a crapshoot. Was 50-50. It could have went either way. They could have went either way, because Caitlin, I ain't gonna lie, she pushes off every time she touches the ball. Every time. She
always hooking somebody. Always. And she's the queen of trash talk, which is why I just laugh at the fact that y'all are mad at Angel Reese for Angel Reese. She's just more like it comes across. It's more overt for her, right? She's a little more animated, I think, than Caitlin. But don't get it twisted. Caitlin is not Little Miss Goody Two Shoes, right? When I say she dogs walk her opponents, she dog walks them with her play and with her mouth.
I love her.
Is a trash talker.
I love her. Chantelle.
I'm cool with it, right? But don't make Angel Reese seem like she a thug and make Caitlin out to be the. But I'll tell you this, I do love what Caitlin said on ESPN. She said Angel Reese is she's getting too much backlash over this. And then did y'all talk about Jill Biden?
No,
we did not. I'm glad
not gonna give her the satisfaction of talking about her on my show.
I'm just saying, but Caitlin got it together. The winners go to the White House, and that's all I got to say about that.
She said that.
Yeah.
Okay. Caitlin said that. She said that she didn't think it was right for them to go. That it's the winners' opportunity to go to the White House. So again, that gave me another, level of respect for Caitlin, because Caitlin gets it, right? And Chantelle, what I was getting ready to say is, I'm praying that Indiana or Chicago have a horrible season in the next year or two, so Caitlin gets drafted by Indiana or Chicago, because I'm getting season tickets.
I know that's right.
And I ain't had WNBA ever. I don't think I've ever been to have I ever been to a WNBA game?
So Cleveland, Ohio used to have a WNBA team, the Cleveland Rockers.
Okay.
I loved it. I miss them having a women's pro team in that city, and so I'm hoping that at some point Cleveland will bring it back and put us back on the map for the WNBA.
My daughter lives in Chicago, and so she was at the championship game when Candace Parker won, and so I was just so jealous. I had something going on where I couldn't go up there to the game because I wanted to go so bad. Because I've always been a Candace Parker fan, and so I love that she was able to get her championship in Chicago. But my daughter definitely has piqued my interest as far as being more intentional with making games up there. I definitely want to go see. There's certain players that I like to go see. Like I said, I hate that Skylar Diggins took some time off. And I'm not sure why Skylar took time off. I think she's just dealing with, I don't know what she's dealing with, right? What do you think, Chantelle? What is Skylar dealing with at this point?
Honestly, I didn't even know Skylar had took time off. Like, I know she's a mom, so I know that, maybe if I'm speculating, I have no.
Maybe she's pregnant again or something. I don't know.
that could be a possibility too. I only know her. I think she only has one child to my knowledge, but I mean, I think me and her are the same age, so she's probably 32. So I mean, if she was having another child, I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, maybe she's just taking time off just to be with the family that she's got right now. I have no idea.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Do you think Brittany Griner is going to play again this season?
So they signed Brittany to a one-year contract, right? I think she's going to play. It'll just be interesting. It'll just be interesting.
Do a lot. I'm just like, I mean, is she in the mental state to be able to
play? Yeah. I mean, that had to be very traumatizing for her.
Absolutely. And who knows what they were doing.
I mean, they made her cut her hair, and I mean, golly, that had to be traumatizing. But you know, sometimes, you know, we got to be careful about the law, and you know, being above that sometimes, right? So I'm not saying that she deserved it, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, if you're overseas, you gotta know what the laws are, because you have no idea. You know, my husband talks about it all the time. He said, y'all women here is off the chain. He said, y'all lived outside the US. He said, y'all no respect for women.
Nah.
No
it's
respect
hard.
No respect for women outside of the US.
It scares me that so many of our women still have to go overseas and play, because I feel like we're not only risking you risk your life because of the places that they have to go, and we already as women sacrifice so much, and now you gotta drop everything and go overseas because you can't make enough money here.
Right.
Say what?
So now NIL. So
oh, and by the way, y'all,
all of them are making more. They're
Skylar
making
is
more.
pregnant. I mean, you know, I'm going.
What now? Skylar's what? She's pregnant.
Skylar's pregnant with her second
child.
child.
I thought it had to been something like that. Okay, so we got a lot of with NIL now. A lot of the girls are making more than what I think like the max is for the WNBA.
Yeah. And kudos to them.
Right.
Shame on the WNBA.
So during the game, Cheryl Swoops talked about how she didn't. I guess she didn't like NFL. I don't know if she was hating because she wished she'd have had that type of money when she was in school, or the fact that they're making more money than what she made even as a professional. And so, what are your things on NIL and all that, Chantelle?
I mean, I think while this was like a topic of discussion while I was, while I was getting my master's in sports administration, this was a big topic because this is pre-NIL, obviously. And I was always for it. I had some people arguing that, the student athlete goes there, they get their meal plan, they get their room and board, and they get their scholarship. But you don't realize as a student athlete, like your time is dedicated to your sport. There is so much that you have to give during that time. And you can go there and, I had 15 meal swipes a week. If we think about that, I'm there 7 days a week. That's not enough.
Yeah. Ty was home a couple of days ago. He during spring break, and he was like, I'm hungry. And I was like, well, where's the meal plan? That he was like, well, it's closed. Right. But luckily for him, he lives right here.
Right.
So I don't know if there were any other the players that were on a team that might not have went home for spring break. And what, where were they at? They're getting money now for NIL and stuff like that. But again, it's not enough.
And each individual player, and this just goes to speak to big schools. Now, I know that we broke the numbers down for smaller schools, and you say like, certain schools are losing money because of certain sports. But if you play at a University of Kentucky, you are making your university thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars when you compete in a high level of basketball, football, women's basketball, baseball, those kind of sports. So to be able to, get, instead of having it under closed doors where people have been doing it for years, where they've been giving players deals backdoor and, paying them money to come there and getting their parents cars, houses, whatever. But now it's all legal. It's all up front. And those players should, because they're that talented and they're bringing that to that university. So I think that it's a great thing.
Oh, I definitely agree too.
I've also never agreed with the rule that there should be a cap or a limit on the amount of money that could be made, right? Because if I'm a regular student, you're not dictating what I can make. You may dictate the fact that I can't have my own business and run it off of your campus. But in terms of you dictating how much money I'm allowed to make, huh? Say what? Absolutely not. I think that's foolish. And I think that what should be done is that y'all actually teach the student athletes. You put them through financial planning and financial education so they understand how to manage their money, but you don't strip them of the opportunity to make money. That's a no-no.
Yeah.
And I was having these conversations with one of my former students. He was my grad assistant when I was at Clark Atlanta, and he and I used to have these conversations all the time. And he was very passionate about the fact that athletes should get paid. They should have the opportunity to make money as if they were, because some of them still have to pay for their education.
Right.
And so I think that we're seeing so many changes now that are necessary because we have to get better at supporting the whole person, right? So my only passion may not be basketball or football or baseball or whatever the case is. If I want to go out there and get a modeling deal, I should be allowed to do that. Who are you to tell me that I can't model because it's going to put me over basically a salary cap?
Mm-hmm.
You ain't paying for me. And you're not going to pay the overflow that I have to cover because certain expenses may not be covered by my scholarship, or I may not even be a scholarship student athlete. I'm on this team because I love the sport and I enjoy being around these people, but I still got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that certain schools use NIL to pay the tuition and the books for walk-ons.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I really do like that. I just think there's way more perks than it is the negative. I think when we go back to even looking at the men's game and the tournaments, I think the teams that were successful in the upsets, like the San Diego States and was it FAU? I never even heard of it.
Miami was an upset for me.
Right. Like never even heard of these schools, right? But if you look at the age and how long they've been in school, they were where they were because of the fact that they were experienced and they, have waited for long, because now you can stay longer. Because you don't have to feel like you got to be rushed to go make your money,
right.
And I'll be honest, because now you're pushing them out. Calipari has to push them out and push them to the league so that he can bring in the recruits that he's already got penciled in, right? But sometimes I just don't think that they're ready to go. I think if they had NIL back in the day when we had the Harrison twins and that whole group, that it was like 7 of them that all went after they had lost the championship, I think they would have came back and wanted to and would have played for another championship because they would have had the money to be able to stay in school that extra year. Now, I don't think any of them are in the league right now from that group.
Right.
Nope.
So
it would have made a difference.
Yeah, I think it'll make a difference with them staying longer as opposed to the whole one and done thing. But anyway, we've been on here 20 minutes longer than what I was supposed to because I totally started a wholly new topic instead of just cutting it off and shutting my mouth. But Chantelle, thank you so much for being our guest. I knew it was going to be a great conversation today. I appreciate you. Danny, go ahead, close us out, babe.
All right, y'all. So y'all know what to do. Subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and like our Facebook page. Everything is at Hits and Heels. So this is season 3.
Episode.
So I'm excited.
6, but I'm deleting episode 5 from last week because it was horrible. So I redid episode 5.
It's a recount.
It's a recount. Episode 5, Hits and Heels, season 3.
Let's go.
But Chantelle, before we get off, make sure you shout out your social media and also your organization's website so we can support you, donate. Make sure that you follow Chantelle, follow her organization, her women's home. So Chantelle, go ahead, give us your website, shout out your contact information so we can make sure everybody is also following you, Miss Kentucky.
On Facebook, it's just Chantelle Pressley, and Winter Garden Sober Living is on Facebook. Instagram is Telly Sells Real Estate. So I'll put that in the chat here down at the bottom for everybody. But yeah, I'm very thankful. If anybody's looking to buy or sell a house, you want to support the camp, you want to donate to a nonprofit in Lexington that supports women, let me know. I only have my crown until May 27th. So if you're in the Lexington or Central Kentucky area and want me to come speak at your school or event, please let me know, because I'm trying to make the most of these last 2 months to really get out in the community in any way possible.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, same bad channel. Make sure you are tuned in for another episode of Hits and Heels. Thank you all so much for joining us. Peace.
Bye.